Let me guess, you've got half written emails in your drafts, a half edited reel in your camera roll, and a content calendar that looks amazing until your brain says, nope, by day three. If you've tried to create content and you're tired of it never getting seen because you're too overwhelmed to reuse it, this episode is for you. Today, I'm going to sit down with Felly, the queen of ADHD safe repurposing and building a strategic omnipresence. She's breaking down how to turn one idea into 100 plus content assets without spiraling, burning out, or even opening a new Google Doc. If you've ever said, I'm out of ideas, I don't know what to post, I've already talked about that, and you're getting bored with your own content, this is the system you've been waiting for. Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the ADHD CEO. He's here. Really excited for us to have a guest today. So, I want to tell you a little bit about her, and I promise you are going to love this episode because not only are we going to riff about some of my favorite shit, content repurposing, omnipresent, all the things I beat the drum to every day, but she has got not only strategies, hacks, and just remixing. And we're going to dive into so much today. You're going to absolutely love it. So I would like to welcome on Felly to the podcast. She is with the FD studio, and we are going to run through all of her story. I'm going to let her share a lot more of that for you. But she's actually Canadian and she does not like snow. I know it doesn't make sense, but she moved, and that's why she got into entrepreneurship a little over 5 years ago so that she could relocate. So I'm going to let her share more of that, but I'm really excited for her to just dive into this topic because you guys know repurposing is my jam. Automating my repurposing is even more my jam. So I know she's going to have the best tips for us to share today. So welcome on to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you so much for the lovely introduction.
Yes, 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 and I like to keep it casual here, so I might drop an F-bomb or 2, so I hope that's okay with you. I probably should have warned you that before we went actually started recording, but I love the idea of bringing this onto the podcast today, and I'm really excited to have you after checking out your sales page and just, the conversations we just had, and you telling me that you provide people like 100 topics of content. I can't wait. So before we dive in too much, tell me a little bit about, why you got into entrepreneurship, how you really got into this topic specifically, because I know for entrepreneurs, just talking to them online, so many are burnt out with content. So this is not only a need for them to grow a sustainable business, but also the idea behind the omnipresence. I don't think a lot of them understand how easy it can be and also how important it is because we saw TikTok go down for like 24 hours. I know, people are talking about algorithm changes all the time. So give me just some insights in how you got started in entrepreneurship and specifically into this topic.
Yeah, so I've always been a traveler. I've been solo traveling since I was 17, and I would say I've known since I was like 12 that I didn't want to spend my life in Canada. But Canada doesn't have like options to live in other places, you know? Like we don't have Caribbean islands, we don't have territories, we just have Canada, and it goes more and more north and gets more and more cold. And so after I spent 2 years in the Rocky Mountains, I was like, what am I doing in this -30 winter for 8 months province? Like, I'm out. And yeah, so I decided to start my own business. I found VA work online through travel bloggers, and I literally bought a one-way ticket to Mexico as soon as I was making 2K a month in my business because I was like, "This is it. I got money coming in, like, we're good, we can go." But yeah, I quickly niched down into content writing because that's where I was better as a VA, and I realized after coming into the block so many times that repurposed content makes the best outsourced content because people don't wanna be getting on calls every month. They don't wanna be filling out forms all the time, but saying, "I want content for Instagram," isn't really enough for a writer to go off of. Like, I can write content, but it'll be pretty general or basic if you give me nothing, right? And so that's where I started repurposing and basically fell into the world of repurposing was because I was trying to write the best content possible.
Yeah. And I can relate to that on so many levels, not only as an entrepreneur, but before I even started my business. I was in digital marketing for the largest franchise in the US of a quick service restaurant. And a lot of the content food related was around the actual or from corporate, right? They say, here's some content for you to post this month. But as a franchisee, their biggest job is to put out content that attracts workers, employees, right? Because this national brand is going to keep running all day long, but your franchise might not. So that is your job is if there's nobody there to make the pizza or deliver the pizza, then your franchise shuts down. And so, I would get direction from not corporate, but a C-suites, and it was like, hey, we need drivers. Like you got to get some content out there. And so then it was like, okay, can you give me some insights into are you giving any different benefit? Like I would ask all these questions. I'm like, you can't just put up a post. This is now hiring. Like that shit doesn't work anymore. And so there was no direction. And I mean, that was my job was to come up with those ideas, but also to work with operations. And so I understand what you're saying about people saying, hey, I need 10 Instagram posts. And it's like, okay, about what? What's the goal? Like, do you have any photos I can use? Like, what's happening? Right. And so I love this as a whole because it is an important topic. And if you look at any of the larger creators that have been around for a decade, Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, like everything they do is repurposed. Right? Would you agree?
100%. Like Gary
Yeah.
Vee, I mean, I don't really know what he does now, but if you look at his content, it's clips from longer videos. Everything is like cut, like he just has people follow him around and film him all the time. And then he cuts the most interesting parts to put on TikTok, to put on
Yeah.
Instagram, to put on YouTube Shorts, right? And it's like, that's all repurposed content. And I know Mr. Beast, I think he has like a team of like 50 people working just content creation for him.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, there's a lot that goes into it, and repurposing makes it possible for them to post that much on that many platforms.
And it's funny you say that about Gary Vee because I actually saw him at a conference last Thursday. So I finally got to see him in person. And that was one of the, I guess, objections from the audience was that we can't do what you do or we can't be who you are because we don't have a team. And he was like, I mean, he's an F-bomb king. So he's like, that for 7 years, I did this 18 hours a day. I answered every response on my Twitter alone. So, and to think about him doing that a decade ago to now, where I have probably 20 different automation softwares because I'm a software junkie that will clip and create all of my long form content into that. I could literally put up thousands of pieces of content a month if I wanted to. So it's so much easier than it needs to be. But I think a lot of people don't know what valuable content is, which is why I love your idea of having the remix because I could go clip this video into 20 different pieces. But if I don't know what topics are going to draw curiosity, it's pointless. Right. So I love, the idea of you helping people create hundreds of pieces of content. So I know that we talked before we started recording, but recently just did a full rebrand on this podcast and now are really speaking to ADHD entrepreneurs. And ADHD entrepreneurs are known for their big ideas, but they often struggle with consistency. So how would you say that content repurposing helps them stay visible without burning out?
I think that repetition builds reputation, and it's really important.
I'm gonna have to transcribe that because that is gold. Okay, quote of the podcast.
Yeah, so you need to keep repeating yourself. And like for those of us with ADHD, it's hard to continue doing the same thing without getting bored. And
Yeah,
so when you're repurposing, it makes it easy to repeat without saying the exact same thing again and again.
exactly, exactly, and you actually found me on Threads, and I was not on Threads for a while because, well, 1, I ADHD are here. I over explain a lot and I catch myself saying the same. I catch myself like repeating, repeating, repeating. So Threads was like, your shit's too long. Like it doesn't fit in our little caption box. So I forever was like, no threads, no threads. But I say that because when I finally got smart enough to just say, here's my podcast episode, like, let's repurpose 100 lines from it. I'm talking about I could pull 100 threads from one podcast episode, like months of content. And then the ones that do really well, boom, repurpose them again 3 months later, 2 months, 30 days later. I repurposed one a week later just to see if it would perform again. Like, I'm just gonna do it again. And it's wild. So many ADHD business owners really get stuck in that content paralysis and overthinking of what to post, and which just leads to them not getting anything posted at all. So what is your best advice on using content repurposing for getting over that analysis? Is that something that you teach on or you coach on or you encourage people to do? Like, hey, if you're having a down week energy wise, just pull from, your old content.
Yeah, so I have a framework. It's 4 parts, but the most popular parts are the last 2 parts, of course. And it is content intentions and then changing the perspective. So, setting an intention for your platforms or content, like whether you're going to be selling, educating, nurturing, or generating leads on that platform, really helps you get clear on which content goes on which platform when you're using multiple platforms. But then changing the perspective is the thing that I find helps people the most. So I have 8 angles that we use in my agency to look at a piece of content and be like, okay, so this piece of content is an objection piece of content, right? So we're going to switch the perspective of that content to a limiting belief or to address a mistake or address a myth in your industry, and taking that, like quote or caption or training that you did and flipping the perspective, I find always makes it easy to activate yourself to find that new way to talk about the same thing.
I love that because, like you mentioned earlier, marketing's all about iteration.
Mhm.
And it's easy to get bored with it if you don't shift perspective. So that's amazing. Is that your signature remix method that you're talking about, the framework? Okay, nice. So if someone is just starting out and they feel overwhelmed by repurposing, where would you recommend they start?
I would recommend looking through your own content first,
Right,
because I
right.
think a lot of people don't realize how much good shit is in their current content, you know? And so it's like if you just look back through your own content, you can see, "Wait, no, that was good, I should repeat that."
Yeah.
Or go even into the analytics depending on the platform and see, like, which had the most saves, which had the most shares, which had the most replies, which had the most opens, whatever platform you're on, right? And use that as, like, your guide of, like, "Okay, the people really resonated with this one. I need to repurpose it
Yeah.
or repeat it."
I love it. I love it. And I'm sure that your angles and your framework kind of dive into this, but I recently introduced a secret podcast. It was kind of my way of beta testing this idea of really niching into ADHD entrepreneurs. I could create a secret podcast with 10 mini episodes in like a week or a weekend. Sorry, actually, I did it in like one day. It took me longer to edit the recordings than it did anything, but it was my way of kind of doing this. And I recently was like, okay, well, that's my secret podcast. Like, I don't want to give all that away. My goal is for people to actually listen to it. But then I was like, you know what? What if I wrote blog post or transcribed those episodes and made blog posts from a different angle, like you said, right? So in the episodes, I am really giving tactical information, but in the blogs, it's more from this is what you're struggling with. This is what you need to do to fix it. If you want the tactics, listen. So it's kind of cool how you can repurpose content, like you said, in different perspectives to bring curiosity to your actual offer. Is there something that you, when repurposing, like, is there a best practice you would recommend for people to, pull out those best clips like we talked about with Gary Vee, or, frame up a repurposed piece of content to be curiosity so that they can draw attention to what they really are trying to draw attention to? Like, is there something, an angle or something that people should be using when repurposing to make sure that it performs best?
This comes back to the content intentions, right? So it's like you created a private podcast for a lead magnet or paid offer, right? And so the intention of the blog post was to sell that
Yes.
private podcast, right? But if you
Yes.
just went in being like, oh, I want to make a blog post out of this, it's like you could have just taken the transcript and then reshared it, right? And it's not actually giving you the desired action or creating the desired action you want from your audience. And so that's where, like, I think a lot of people see their repurposing fall flat because they take an Instagram caption and they copy paste it to their email. But like an Instagram caption, the point of it was to generate leads, where your email might be to sell or to nurture them closer to the sale. And so it's like you're not seeing anything happen from that repurposed content because you're not clear on the intention of your content.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to write that. I'm just writing the word intention because I want to burn that into my brain because I've explained that to my students in my programs. I've explained that on trainings previously 1,000 times, but I have not used the word intention. I've used like purpose, goal, but intention just, it's like heavy on me. And I'm going to keep that because that's 100% accurate, right? It's like walking through your customer journey and knowing what piece of content, whether it be even a conversation with you, fits with each journey and the intention of the next step, right? The logical next step for that person to take. So, okay. So back to the tactical stuff. You're a big advocate of omnipresent marketing, and I'd never realized how many people didn't understand what an omnipresence is or the purpose of having one until I got into coaching. So when I first started my business, I was not a VA like you necessarily, as far as like, I was more a consultant and doing strategy. So I would come in and I would, consult with your business, help you build a strategy, and then pass it back to you to go execute. So that's what I did when I left corporate until I really got into coaching. And that's when I started to see people didn't understand the point of it. And I realized it could be very overwhelming for people because they feel the need, they feel like it's hard to be on multiple platforms because they don't understand repurposing and remixing, which we're going to get to remixing in a minute. But how can ADHD entrepreneurs do this without it feeling like a full-time job? Because I'm be honest, it can. Like when I first got started, it is my full. I left corporate, and went full time into entrepreneurship. But point being, I was spending hours a day creating content for every platform. So how can they build this omnipresence? Obviously through repurposing. And why do you feel it's important?
The best way I would say to build an omnipresence is to find your core content. And in my world, core content means the content that's the top of funnel. It's the one that you like to create the most, the one that you're going to repurpose everything from that content. It doesn't have to be long form, it doesn't have to be video, it can be whatever you want. It's the one that you like and will continue to create consistently so that you can then repurpose from it.
Yes.
From there, it gets much easier, like, this is where we follow the the framework. The framework is CLIP: content, location, intention, perspective, and so, like, next is the location, the platforms that you wanna be showing up on, the intentions you have for those platforms, the perspectives to switch the content from the original into new content, right? So
Yes.
once you have your core content established and you know the platforms you wanna show up on, the next thing to do is to get clear on the intention and create the
Yes.
content. The reason it's important to have that omnipresence and to have those intentions on those omnipresence is because, first of all, not everyone consumes content the same. Not everyone will watch a podcast, listen to a podcast. Not everyone will read a blog post. So if you're only using one type of content, if you're only doing written, if you're only doing video, you're missing half the people. Right. Also, something that I see when you get those people who come into your world and they follow you and then buy in the same day is having that ability to be bingeable. And I think you can't be bingeable if you're only on one platform. Like someone can scroll through hundreds of reels, right? But they're going to want to see, like, what else can you do? Either listen to a podcast or join your email list or, find you on another platform and see, are you the same person on all these platforms? And do I still like you on all of them as well? Right? Because I think omnipresence builds a level of trust. It creates that ability to be bingeable and it takes people through, like, not, yes, through your client journey, but it helps you reach them where they're at and
Yeah.
can find
Yeah.
you in the medium that they need to find you.
And okay, I before we go any further, because I have a ton of questions for you, but something you just said, I've talked about this multiple times, and I don't think people understand it, okay? And what you said is people will look at different platforms and see, do I still like you? Are you the same person? I riffed about this probably for 20 minutes in my membership one day, and I know my membership people were like, "Shut up." But I was like, "Look, here's the deal, all right? If you go in these Facebook groups and you make a post and you're like, oh my God, I haven't made any sales in my business yet. I'm struggling. This is not working, blah, blah, blah. And then you go in threads and you're like, oh my God, I made $10,000 a month selling this course. People see that shit. Okay. They do. One, that goes back to integrity because you're lying. Okay. You're lying. Bad marketing without integrity. no values, might get you some quick cash, but it's not sustainable. Okay. People will find out. Two, you're hurting your brand, you know? And so, yes, people follow, even if they don't actually follow you, even if they don't actually hit the follow button, they're watching you on multiple platforms. And so I love that because it can either hurt your brand or it can help your brand. So, so much gold. And I'm so glad I could go off on a tangent about it, but I am so glad you said that because I don't think people realize it. And okay, back to the tactical stuff. I have to keep bringing myself back to it. So, repurposing content is great. And we know that obviously engagement matters because that builds trust with our audience, the know, like, and trust factor, all the things. How do you balance automation and AI now, as far as using that to help with content repurposing versus authentic repurposing? And, do you feel like AI content repurposing is hurting engagement at all? I know it's a very specific question.
I feel like it's a very layered question.
It is a layered I am the best at layered questions, and it's like, "Can you repeat what you just said?" I'm sorry.
So I built a custom bot to do help me with my remixes
Love it.
because I think AI is a tool. I don't think it is the best writer.
Agreed.
As someone who is a writer, like, obviously, I'm gonna critique its writing the most,
It
but
doesn't
so
understand emotion, there's a lot of things in it.
yeah, yeah. So I have built this custom bot to understand my clip framework and just like regular content rules that I have around marketing so that I can submit my remix onboarding form and it can spit out ideas one by one for me. I reject a lot of the ideas it sends because sometimes it gets generic and you have to say, "Excuse me, it's too generic. What is this? This isn't what I asked
Right.
for."
Yes.
But in my own journey, I also do the same thing that I ask it to, like, basically from my sales page, give me hooks because I just need that nudge to, like, inspire me to write a piece of content.
Agreed. Agreed.
I'm like, "What was the second half of this question? Do I think it's"
Well, if you think it helps or hurts engagement, just because, like, I know I've had students in my programs where, I encourage them to use AI, like you said, not that it's the end all be all, but it does get that creativity flowing, gives the idea, and then you authenticate it with your own words. But I've had several of my students just be like, well, it doesn't get the same engagement. I'm like, because it doesn't feel emotion. Like, you still have to go back and refine it. But do you think that it hurts engagement at all? It's just something that I've heard over and over.
I think it depends on how you use it. Like we both just said, it's a tool, it's not a writer. You need to go back in and put your voice. I don't care how many people say, like, I can give it my brand guide and it will spit out good content. It still will fall flat either eventually or, like, in certain parts of it, doesn't do emotion properly like a human
Right.
would. And
Yeah.
so that's where, like, sometimes I'm reading posts and I can tell, like, this is written by AI and it's nothing against you, but in my brain, I, like, discount the content a little bit. Do you know? I'm like, "Oh, it just, like, went from being a 9 to being a 6." Like, it drops down when I'm like, "Well, you didn't actually write this. So do you actually is this actually your thought?" Especially if it's like, I wanna hire you for your thoughts, for your brain, for you and your knowledge. So if I can straight up see that all of your content is AI, it doesn't interest me anymore, right? You lose a level of trust. But if you use it as a tool for engagement, no, it doesn't hurt your engage sorry, if you use it as a tool for ideation, for, like, helping you kickstart the content writing process, no, I don't think it gets in the way of your engagement because it's just helping you look at things different ways or giving you angles you didn't immediately think of because sometimes we're too close to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say that too, because I am actually in the process of building a custom bot. Oh, and it's a lot more work than I actually thought it would be. I'm not even gonna lie. But in the process of all of this rebrand, not only my podcast, but in my programs, I encourage my students to use AI because as someone with ADHD, again, there are just low energy days. We know that emotion affects our energy. So there are days where I am just like, I can't do anything today, And so AI not only will get my brain going and get those ideation out there, but also kind of relieve the pressure of you have so much shit to do today. And so I'm building a custom bot with all of my frameworks, all of my sequences, everything. So the students that are in my ADHDpreneur Academy will be able to say, like, I mean, they could say, hey, today is a low energy day. Like, give me 3 quick wins that I could get to get my energy up. But they also could say, hey, can you help me write this sales sequence or can you help me? So I love that you had that custom bot just because I do think it takes so much pressure off of us. And especially when it comes to like omnipresence and workflows and remixing, it does just speed up the process too and helps us build that business that works with our life. So I want to dive into the remix really quick because I want to talk about how your offer helps entrepreneurs make the most out of their content with less effort. So, we talked a little bit about, obviously the bot you built for it and the idea behind it, but can you give us a sneak peek at what the remix actually is? Any quick testimonials you have. And for those of you that are listening, I'll have all the information in the show notes too, because what she told me before we started recording, I'm going to add to cart. So, can you talk about the remix a little bit? Like, how does this work? And, yeah, give us all the scoop.
All right, so my general sales spiel is that the remix is a taste of content repurposing. You send us 10 links to your existing content, and we send back 100 custom content ideas within 7 days. That's the
Yeah.
spiel.
Yeah, I love
Essentially,
it.
essentially what it is that with your 10 content links, you can send us anything you have, right? You can send us emails, blogs, reels, threads. We've had people give us access to their membership to like go through the membership content. It's your choice what you want us to repurpose. And then we put it all into an Airtable base so that it's easily organized. You get by category, there's hooks, the prompts. So we'll give like 2 to 3, like write about this or that, depending on what the hook is. Content intention, the offer, the content type, and then the original piece of content that it's being repurposed from. So
Oh,
then within 7 days, we send it to you and you get to have a bank of 100 content ideas.
that is cool.
And we have clients that use it again and again because, like I said, we specify the type of content based off what you said, what platforms you're on. But just because I said this would make a great carousel doesn't mean it can't be also a blog post. It can't be a podcast episode, right? So we have clients that will use one content idea 3 or 4 times on different platforms.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Yeah.
great. I'm in love with it.
Okay. So for those that are ready to, remix and turn their content into that cash generating system, you guys know system's my favorite word ever. Um, Definitely check out the show notes because we will have a link for you to check out the remix. And we'll also have Felly's social media handles and stuff too, in case you want to connect with her and follow her. Couple little rapid fire, fun, engaging questions that I like to kind of end with. And then I'm just, oh, this was so good. This is so good. So, what is one marketing myth you wish would die for absolutely ever?
Obviously, I'm biased, but I would say that content repurposing is copy pasting. Like, content repurposing is recreating your content. It's not copy pasting from one platform to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Agreed. 100%. 100%. And you're really missing, in my opinion, out on a little bit of an opportunity there too. Because if someone is following you on multiple platforms and it's just a copy paste, they're no longer paying attention. But if you are able to take 2 seconds to tweak it or customize it, optimize it to a specific platform, you could be hitting them at different stages of the buyer's journey. And so
Totally true.
that's a big money leak, right?
Mhm,
Would you agree? Yeah.
100%.
I'm sure that's all part of what you teach, but that is a huge money leak. So, if you had only one social media platform to build your business forever and ever and ever, which one would you pick and why?
Threads, because
Threads.
I'm
Yes.
obsessed. I just
So
I
damn easy. And I'm so angry with myself that it took me so long to like, okay, let's do this. And what I noticed, this is a really big ninja tip for those of you that are still listening and really want to go pop off on threads, the more specific, the more you niche down on threads, the more result you will get. So in the beginning, and I mean, that's with all content, honestly, but like in the beginning, I was just all about marketing, right? I was given any kind of entrepreneurial marketing tips, anything about content, like all of the different areas that I can teach and coach on. But when I got really specific into one topic, and this isn't just for vanity metrics, but the comments, the conversations I was getting, and then also the market research, right? When people are rethreading or commenting, that's market research for me. So I have turned threads into a gold mine by getting more specific.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I love it. I love it. So, last question here. If you could have one piece of advice that you wish you would have had in the very beginning of your business, what would it be? What would you share?
I'm, like, rolling my eyes at myself because I hate this piece of advice, and I resisted it for so long, and I don't like being told what to do. So, niching actually works. Like, I resisted for so long. It took me, like, 3 years to go all in on content repurposing just because I was like, "I can do it all," you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's so much better to go all in, even though I hate it.
Guys, did you hear that? Okay, because I mean, I even feel like I didn't niche down enough until the last 30 days. I know that sounds crazy, and I was getting more and more specific, but and just to share really quick, I hired a mentor a couple months ago. I've had mentors since the day I opened the doors to my business just because I need accountability with my ADHD and being a mom of 3 and my husband has no entrepreneurial experience, so I could vent to him, but he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I believe in mentorship. I love mentorship, and she had a hard conversation with me about you really need to embody your business here. You need to embody your brand. And doing some deep work on myself, there was this fear of niching down even more. Even though I knew I needed to, there was this fear, like you said, not wanting to listen to that advice. And so that is how all of this rebrand came about was she asked me like, why are you so systematic, why are you so robotic, why do you have so many automations, like why do you operate the way you operate? Because in the mastermind, man, other people are like, yeah, that's too much, like that's too much, I don't want to do all that, or that's boring, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I thrive on that shit. Like I love systems, I love automations, I love building this bot. That's part of the reason it's taking me so long because I keep adding to it. But long story short, that I needed that introspective for me to be able to niche down, and just the excitement and passion that's come back to my business from doing it because I now have that full clarity. Would you agree that niching down even more gives you a little bit more clarity and direction?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going off on a tangent. All right. So, wrapping up this episode, what is the best way for people to connect with you? I know you said Threads is your favorite social media. Would IG DMs be the best way if they wanted to ask you a question or, reach out at all to you?
Yeah, I would say, mm, well,
Or email?
I'm like, I
Or
just had a
email.
total brain fart.
All day long. My brain all day long farts. It's like an old man in his sixth square.
Right, so, yes, Threads is where I'm most active. I use Instagram as an inbox, so you can slide in my DMs there, but don't expect me to post. There's no ongoing posts there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my website is fellyday.com, and you can always email me, info@fellyday.com.
Love it. Love it. So, all of that information will be in the show notes for you guys. And for any ADHD entrepreneur, that is listening, that is struggling with content consistency, here is your action step for today. I want you to take this immediately after listening to the episode. So, definitely go to the show notes, check out the remix, and, connect with Felly on social media. I know that's multiple action steps, but here's your actual action step. I want you to repurpose something today. Okay. I want you to repurpose something today. Once you get into the practice of doing it and then you go and check out the remix, your eyes will be opened. About 20% of the content that I post every month is new. The other 80% is repurposed. And I put out him like Gary V's little sister that's just not doing as well as he's doing. Like I put out hundreds of pieces of content per month. And this month, actually, because of the rebrand, I'm actually flooding the market. Like I am trying to put out a lot more to see what works. And my listeners have probably noticed that because they're like, whoa, but it's not taking any extra time because it's all repurposed. So, your action step, go repurpose some shit today. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for being with me today, Felly. This was absolutely incredible. Just a gold mine of knowledge. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
Yes. All right, guys, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome. Talk soon.
Cool.